Okay, so actually, it's a very fascinating time to speak after the Iraqi elections, right?
That's true. Correct.
But let's discuss this as well. But let me first of all allow me to introduce you. So welcome to another session of the Middle East Center in Israel. I'm your host Tom Wagner, and together with us is my friend Haider El-Asadi, an Iraqi Arab peace activist, founder of Iraqi-Israeli Association of Peace, a member of the Steering Committee of People for Peace, appeared in BBC Israel in Arabic and the IDF radio, defending peace and coexistence in the Middle East between Jews and Arabs, and a strong believer in Israel right in defending itself after Hamas terrorist attack of October 7th. Haider is using social media to bring awareness to the rise in anti-Semitism and misinformation that's being spread against the Jewish people, and I'd like to thank you for that, first of all, my friend, and for your time by joining us this evening. So, first of all, let's start by a broader introduction of yourself, and can you please share us your story?
So thank you, Tom, and welcome everyone. And I appreciate that me being here today with you, Tom. This is an honor to me, of course. And what I do is all about peace. It's not only about Arabs, it's not about Jews, it's about us, all of us as a human being. We are one people. And what we do is for the sake of humanity overall. First of all, let me begin. My name is Haider Asadi, as you mentioned. I'm an Iraqi Arab peace activist. I have actually never been in politics before. I was just an Iraqi citizen. And one day I actually studied in Egypt for a long time. And I went back to Iraq. That was around 2013. And I just noticed this um, power of Iran of control over Iraq, my home country. And despite the federal government in Iraq is a pro-USA, the US backing them, but there's a militia similar. Iraq becomes slowly similar copy of Lebanon. And whenever you mention something against Iran or the militias in Iraq, they will try to silence you. But I was thinking that Iraq is a bit different from Lebanon because Lebanon is, after all, not a democracy like Iraq, and the United States spent billions of dollars. So when we go ahead and say what we want in the street, we shouldn't be arrested for that. And it's true, the Iraqi security forces will not do that. The Iranian-backed, however, militias will do that. And actually, they don't arrest; they let you disappear, which we know what this means. I was with friends. We have been protesting against Iran's control over Iraq, and one by one of my friends been either disappearing or suddenly tell me they want to go out because they are scared. And these things gradually expanding until I got attacked by the Iranian-backed militias. And I got attacked actually not once, twice. Once was in 2003 after the war in Iraq, and the second one was during that time, which is the most recent one. This attack was led me to flee my country. And their attack was nobody can speak about Iran. For them, sadly, is not they are not Iranians in Iraq. They are Iraqis who are fully loyal to Iran. And they are loyal in a level. It's funny because one day I spoke with a person who was somehow neutral, but I told him, what do you think of them? He said, these Iraqis who are loyal to Iran, if there's currently a war like the Iran-Iraq war before, this time they will join Iran, not Iraq. So it's funny because this type level of brainwashing is too strong to the level that they are prepared to join Iran against their own country. So let alone being against Iran, trying to get Iran out, people like me, what is going to happen? So I fled from Iraq. I stayed in China for over 9 years. I as a refugee with the United Nations. And during this time, I was, researching and trying to find what's going to happen to this country, to Iraq, the cradle of civilization, Middle East, and with the control of Iran over it, what's going to happen to this country? We expected Iraq to be similar to Japan or South Korea after the U.S. comes in. It ended up much worse than when it was actually before 2003. I mean, under Saddam's, he's a dictatorship, but the country weren't controlled by militias, and it ended up much worse. So I I came in to realize that, oh, the Jews and Israel was talking about how Iran is bad. And it come to exist. As I have mentioned that previously, the Prime Minister of Israel around 2007 or 8, he said Iran is not after Israel and the Jews only. Iran is going to swallow all of the Middle East slowly. And it came to exist. It's actually true. They did that to Iraq. They did that to Syria, to Lebanon, to Yemen, to even Gaza. And they want actually to expand more until Israel comes in to stop that with the recent attacks in Iran. So I said, okay, so the Israel and the Jewish people are right. So hold on a moment. We have been raised to hate the Jews, and with these history books, so-called history books, and how bad they are, and they came from Europe and trying to take the Arab lands. Okay, let me search on that. So I began to research more and more and more, and since I am no longer locked into a society that I'm scared to search online, I'm no longer in the Middle East. So I searched and searched and searched, and I found out, no, that's not actually true. The Jewish people have over 3,000 years of Jewish history, not only in the land of Israel, but actually in all over the Middle East. So I was surprised, why this information being deleted when we searched it back in Iraq and Arab countries, It's funny. And so I said, okay, so let us, I will try to do a test. So I created this social media, Twitter at the time, and I make a post. I'm an Iraqi Arab supporting Israel, and I want peace with Israel and the Jewish people. So I posted it, and I was expecting that Arabs and Iraqis will attack me. This is for sure. But I wanted to see the view of the Jewish people, and I was surprised to see the Jewish people want peace more than the peace that I wanted. I want peace with Israel, and I'm a bit scared when I say it. But I found the Jewish people waiting. People like me to say I want peace and tell me, you know what, we want peace more than you. We don't want wars. We want end to these wars. We didn't start these wars. We just want peace. But sadly, the Arab countries, until their, dictatorships, it's, endless wars. So I was, really happy to see this kind of answers. This beautiful Jewish people want peace. So I realized that actually peace can happen and very much possible. But the problem is with our region is a bit locked with the history book and brainwashing. It's going to be difficult. But then comes the 2020, the Abraham Accords happen. It's no longer impossible. We don't need peace through wars anymore. Peace can happen just like the UAE and Bahrain. We don't need wars and then we're forced into peace or, so-called. Peace can come through peace, through negotiation. We can very well do that. So that's what I become. I become a peace activist trying to reach the peace between Iraq and Israel. And after all, unlike, for example, Israel and Egypt or Israel and Jordan, Iraq doesn't have actual borders with or dispute borders with Israel. So it doesn't make any sense for this country to be in a so-called war with Israel. Since Israel didn't do anything to Iraq and neither Iraq theoretically did anything to Israel, we have even no borders. So we can very well reach peace. It's simple, we can reach it. And actually the Jewish people waiting near their phone, they're waiting for the Iraqi people to make the phone call. Oh, come on, we can't do that, We can't do that and we can reach peace. Israel has this high tech, have one of the best economies, not in the Middle East, in the world. Iraq can benefit from that. And there is a lot of Iraqi Jews who are in Israel. Sadly, they were basically expelled from Iraq in the 1940s. But they are still there. They kept their tradition, their Iraqi tradition. Despite their Jewish people, they kept the Jewish Iraqi tradition, which is very, very beautiful. And Iraq can benefit a lot from Israel. And this peace can benefit all of the Arab and Jewish people in the Middle East. We just need to work on it. And sadly, that I was, all the time on the news and reading the news, and was the peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel comes almost to the signing. And the Hamas terrorists comes in with their attack backed by Iran. And I was actually not surprised because Iran is going to be weaker and weaker, and it will be cornered when more Arab countries join peace with Israel. This basically will create a surrounding. They will create borders, locked Iran into a corner, and they don't want that. So sadly, October 7th massacre against innocent Jews happened. But we can, sadly, Hamas talking in the tongue of Muslims and Arabs and Palestinians, but they represent neither of those. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hamas is much worse than ISIS. What ISIS did to Iraq, and the world come in with this coalition forces to defeat and dismantle these terrorists. Hamas did worse. We saw the video. I was in the Nova Festival exhibition in Washington, D.C. And I was, to be honest, these photos and videos that nobody can share online. I saw it. I saw what Hamas did to innocent Jews. Innocent Jews, men, women, elderly, even children and toddlers. I mean, it's honestly, these images should be shared. It should be shared. The world need to see what Hamas did to innocent Jews, just like ISIS what it did. ISIS did horrible things to innocent Iraqis, but Hamas did worse. In fact, Hamas did exact as ISIS because it's kind of horror. I remember that in Mosul, when ISIS entered, there were more than 30,000 Iraqi soldiers trained and backed and have American-made weapons. Meanwhile, there was just around less than 300 ISIS came from Syria, entered Iraq through Mosul. The Iraqi soldiers simply put their weapons, take off their military costumes, and left in civilian clothes. They are scared of 200-300 because ISIS put this fear into the way the rape, the murder, the killing, the torture. They scare people, and Hamas learned the exact thing to do. They want to do the same thing to innocent Jews, and they successful into raping and torturing and murdering. But sadly, the world didn't do anything about that. And we, not only as Jews and Arabs, as human beings, we need to share this information to tell the world that these Hamas are no resistance. They are as bad as also to Palestinians, and we saw what they did in downtown Gaza a few weeks ago. We saw that. We saw how many innocent Palestinians got killed by Hamas. Hamas doesn't allow anybody to talk against them. Hamas are a terrorist organization. We need to tell the world who they are. Hamas must be stopped, must be dismantled, disarmed, and Gaza should be free of Hamas. And when that happens, the Palestinians will feel freedom. Right, Tom.
Okay, thank you. So let's discuss, first of all, the news, because we're speaking after elections in Iraq, and I took a look at the results, and it's not very promising. It seems like the pro-Iranian axis basically is dominating the new parliament. And on the other hand, we see this tendency in the Middle East to expand the Abraham Accords. And I heard from several Iraqi, let's say, politicians or analysts about the hope or perception that Iraq could be joining the Abraham Accords in the next few years, so to speak. But do you think after the election, the results of the elections that we just seen, do you think it's still a possibility, or maybe it will be a sign for Iraq to go even further into the Iranian axis?
Well, first of all, let me mention that Iraq has around more than 70% of Iraq's Muslims as actually Shia ethnicity, which is like Iran. And when Saddam was ruling, Saddam is actually Muslim Sunni, and he's from the theoretically minority in Iraq. And he have done horrible things against civilians, against Shia civilians, especially in the 1991. So when Saddam fell in 2003, regardless how bad the Shia politician is or party is, the majority Iraqi Shia will go ahead to elect a Shia politician. They are scared of somebody like Saddam comes into power from the minority and do to them what Saddam did before. So this is just a standard I think happened in Iraq since 2003, since the first election in 2005 actually. And so they all the time go ahead to vote for Shia parties, despite the fact they know these parties are corrupt. These parties are pro-Iran and do Iran's agenda in Iraq. They do know that. But for them, better than I go ahead to elect from the minorities who are going to do to me what Saddam did. With that being said, I believe that things in Iraq improving, though slow, because while the Iranian-backed parties did won in the election a lot of seats, but so is the prime minister, the current prime minister of Iraq, who is more of a pro-America than Iran. And he's building the country, he's investing in the country, trying to rebuild economy. And let's also remember, he succeed into stopping Iran-backed militia in Iraq, the Iraqi militia, from entering Syrian civil war. when they wanted to enter to support Assad regime at the time. He succeeded into stopping them. And this actually counts for him. It's something good. And also he managed to stop, well, not fully, but somehow reducing the attacks from the Iranian-backed militia against Israel, from Iraq against Israel. And he stopped, and despite their power, they wanted to do, as I mentioned at the beginning of the Zoom call, that these people, these militias are prepared to do anything. They are prepared to turn Iraq into a civil war for the sake of Iran. They are prepared to do anything. So when Israel successfully attacked Iran, I mean, honestly, if you ask me what Iraq would do, I would say the Iran-backed militias will launch all their missiles at Israel to attack Israel, because they do whatever Iran wants. But the Prime Minister of Iraq managed somehow from stopping them from doing anything against Israel. There's a few missiles did launch indeed, but mostly didn't actually make that much of major impact in Israel. Mostly fall, as I remember, in the borders. So this actually counts also for him, that he managed somehow to weaken them, to stop them. But how can he, as somehow neutral, to completely dismantle the Iranian militia back in Iraq? This is a bit more of a complicated thing to happen in overnight, especially with what you just said, that the Iranian-backed parties did want seats. So it will take, I guess, a few more years for the people to begin to actually vote for a party based on professionalism rather than religion or ethnicity. So it will take more time. And if he managed to, which, to be honest, for Iraq currently, he's somehow the best. If he managed to renew his position currently, probably he will be able to work with the Americans to try to disarm the Iranian-backed militias in Iraq, and probably will have one military after all. But so far, what Iraq right now in is basically the best case scenario compared to a few years ago. Because a few years ago, we have only the, let's say, two right type of parties who are doing Iran's agenda in Iraq. But currently now we have more of Muslim Shia parties who are prepared to build Iraq rather than be, the backyard of Iran. So it will take more time, but I'm positive about that. The current prime minister also, he's worried into taking a direct position in the what was by then the Israel and the Iran fighting. He tried his best to keep it neutral, because if he take a side, then this country could, it's fragile. The peace in it is somehow fragile, the security in it. And if he, by example, joined the Americans, which I honestly hope for, then the Iran will not stand down in that. So what he did in the best case scenario is just to calm down things. So I think the result of the current election is what the country should go for. Slowly reducing the seats to these Iranian-backed militias and give it to somebody who's actually good at doing something for the country, and gradually they will lose their power, which is what I hope for, actually.
So basically, in our situation today, sometimes from Israel, it seems like every Shia party is basically aligned with Iran and is directly does everything that Iran will say. But basically, as I understand the situation today, it's different than what it used to be. And today you can see many of the Shia politicians within, I would say, the Iraqi coalition that are not aligned with Iran anymore. They still align with the Shia doctrine in Iraq, but they're not aligned with Iran anymore. Do you think it's possible that Iraq, under the same or with this parliament and government that will obviously be Shia-led, you think it's possible that in those years, before the next elections, Iraq can turn to join the Abraham Accords under Shia leadership?
I would say that will be a bit more difficult because still we have Iran-backed militia. That's the current problem we have. So think about Lebanon right now. It is very difficult for Lebanon to join a peace initiative with Israel if we have Hezbollah, because Hezbollah simply will say no. I'm ready to turn this country into civil war. So that's the problem we have in Iraq right now. It's not about what the people think. It's more about who is in control on the ground. The Iraqi military doesn't want to go into conflict with the Iranian-backed militia, and the Iranian-backed militia doesn't want to go conflict with the Iraqi army because they're backed by the US. So each one have somehow balance here. And the Prime Minister of Iraq want to take the weapons from them, want to dismantle them, want to take the to let those who are somehow not fully brainwashed, but they're still in the Iran-backed militia, to let them join the Iraqi military, just like simply what's right now they are saying in Lebanon, to let some of the Hezbollah to join the military. But this is not gonna happen easily, because Iran, after all, if I go 10 years ago, probably Iran will be more open-minded towards the idea of this militias join the Iraqi military, because they have somehow a control over Iraq, and also they do have other militias to depend on, like in Syria, Lebanon, and Gaza. But currently, with their militia in Iran and Syria being defeated, and their Hezbollah is extremely weak, Hamas is all basically defeated, and their militias in Yemen extremely weak. So they are more they will fight. They will fight. I'm talking here in the Iran's government will fight back to keep their militia in Iraq intact. So, but if more countries join peace, here we're talking about other countries. Let's say, for example, Saudi Arabia. If the Saudi Arabia and other countries join peace, this will it will no longer be somehow what we call it, the peace exclusive to one or two countries like what it used to be with Egypt and Jordan. It will be more countries. So it's impossible that the majority are bad and only a couple of countries are good, and we are the only one who didn't make with peace with Israel. So it has to be that it will be more pressure on Iran, more pressure on Iraq, and I believe the more countries join peace, the easier it will be for the remaining to accept it. And I also think that the US, the more pressure they put on Iraq's government, the better it is for them to pressure these militias to join the military and dismantle them. Since we are no longer have ISIS, we no longer have terrorism, so what's the purpose of another militia in Iraq? It doesn't make any sense. This militia has been created, after all, in 2014 to fight ISIS. The majority of them, some of them backed by Iran since 2003, they actually exist in Iraq. But the majority, which we call right now the PMC, or the Popular Mobilization Forces, they created to fight ISIS. ISIS is over. And Iraq's military today is not like 2014. It's much more different, much more trained by the Americans. They are ready to take on the ground. They don't need Iran or their militias. So it's as soon as we, let's say, 4 years from now, if this militia has been, which I believe in 4 years, high chance, if the US kept their pressure, these militias will be dismantled. If they did, then I believe that the government will not be scared into declaring what they want. So in the case of joining peace, why not? It's not going to be something bad. I mean, what's the result could be? Maybe there's some protests will be against the government, but not all over Iraq, because a lot of majority of people want peace. They don't want Iran anymore. I remember after the war of 2003, there's a lot of our neighbors, cousins, friends, they mentioned how Iran good. But the last few years for me in Iraq, everybody hate Iran because of what they did. Iran lost their cause in Iraq after what they did to the Iraqi people. They lost it. So it's just a matter of time for the Iraqi people to say it's enough, just like the remaining of the countries in the Middle East to Iran.
So, but on the other way around, what you're saying is that as long as there are pro-Iranian militia on the ground, and of course there are strong militias and very capable of creating a lot of problems, you don't think that the prospect of Iraq joining the Abraham Accords is realistic?
I believe that it's more likely after this militias to get dismantled, because they are still, after all, they are under Iran's orders. They do what Iran's ordered them. But it reminds me last year in December when Assad about to fall, the Iraqi militias, especially those who are direct orders come to them from Iran, they were fully ready to go to Syria. They were even releasing videos even on Twitter and on social media live, and they're preparing to go to fight in Syria. And then suddenly the prime minister managed somehow to press them down and to not let them to cross the borders. So this was actually an achievement, because it means he do have the ability to stop Iran and their militias in Iraq. So it's up to him what he want to do in the next 4 years. That if the current prime minister managed to secure his second term. But this is, of course, Iran doesn't want that. So will he be able to get it a second time? That will be a question mark.
So let's speak a bit about the people. I was mediating in a close discussion between an Israeli Knesset member and an Iraqi politician. And in one of the conversations, the Iraqi politician said to the Knesset member, but he was referring to Israel, not to the Knesset member himself. He said, but you never really explained your views or your plans to the Iraqi people. What is your stand regarding the Iraqi people? And the Knesset member really didn't know how to react, because I think that for most Israelis, it's very intuitive that if you want to attack us, then we will want peace with you and to have as normal relation as possible. But I think that it's not that obvious from the other side, because for many years the Arabic media, especially specific outlets, worked very hard to create this narrative that Israel wants to either occupy the entire Middle East, Israel al-Kubra, or to enslave all the Arabs, or to convert them to Judaism, all sorts of blood labor that are not really connected to reality. But how does it seem from the point of view of the Iraqi people, what the Iraqis think about Israel's plans for the future or intentions?
Yeah, so let's first of all, I would like to say that Iran, as a Muslim and Shia country, they have very weak media. Their media is weak. They are unable to brainwash people through their media. While for Israel, by example, Israel has Iran is their number one enemy. But Iran is right now in a very weak state, and their militias is mostly dismantled. While they are still poses a threat to Israel, but not as much as a threat that Qatar and Turkey, that I believe, poses to Israel. And the Iran's militia in Syria dismantled, is gone. But we have much worse than that in Syria right now. So, like Turkey. So the issue right now we have you're mentioning the Iraqi people and all over the people in the Middle East, they are brainwashing by one channel, Al Jazeera, Qatar-based. This channel at 24/7, especially in their Arabic language version of this channel, is brainwashing people to hate the Jewish people. They brainwash all Arabs and Muslim into believing that the Israel 24/7, what's so-called murdering Palestinians and Arab and Muslims. They are trying to turn it from, for example, Israel against Palestine. No, Israel against Muslims. That's what they are trying to give the cover into their media and their lies and misinformation. And actually, this is, if you read their news recently, you will notice that they are no longer trying to say Israel as well. They are more clear about it. Jews. They are trying to say as a religion against religion. That's how to the level they arrive to. And this channel is really, really powerful. And Muslims in all, Muslim Sunni and Muslim Shia, both brainwashed by this channel. This channel is really problematic. And many people believe in it. And this is what it makes any peace is going to be much more difficult to achieve if our generation and the younger one being brainwashed by this kind of lies. The lies actually it's arrived to the level here in the United States and in Washington D.C. when I went out with my Jewish friends and I met some Americans and white Americans who are believing in what the same media, the Al Jazeera media, is saying. So it's no longer exclusive that Muslims are brainwashing by these channels, but even Americans, white, believing in these lies. So if these lies arrive to brainwash in Americans, so imagine people in the Middle East. So Iraqi people want peace. Yes. Iraqi people doesn't want war anymore. We always in Iraq mentioning how Saddam took us from a war to another. But that doesn't change the fact that they're still believing in what Al Jazeera is saying. Even though Al Jazeera, based in Qatar, they are sadly believing in it. They are believing in Israel wanted to expand and take all. And the thing is, they don't even look at the map that Israel actually not occupying Gaza. Israel is not in Gaza. Gaza is being controlled by Hamas since 2007. They don't believe in that. They don't understand it. They don't even read the news. All they read is what Jazeera says. Al Jazeera is saying misinformation and they believe in it. They hate the Jews for something didn't happen or doesn't exist. So sadly, they are mentioning that that Israel not only want Gaza, they want Lebanon, they want Syria, they want even half of Iraq and all of Saudi Arabia. I mean, if you're a realistic person and think about it, you will find out that how Israel, this small country, can expand all of this. But sadly, the media is succeeding in that, especially I'm talking about here Al Jazeera. So Al Jazeera, if the United States and the Western countries pressured Qatar to stop this spread of hatred, we could very well reach a level where the people will actually begin to think. Because nowadays, if you see the young generation, all of them, using their phones to scroll on social media, and they actually believe what they see on the social media. So when this lies comes in front of them, they believe in it. We have a problem here. So if we want to reach peace, we need to re-educate the people away from these lies. And we need to stop these lies from appearing on both the internet, the social media, and big channels, big important channels who are paid by governments like in Qatar, Al Jazeera. So that's what we need to do. If we want for example, Israel did nothing to the Iraqi people. So why would the Iraqi people against Israel? It doesn't make any sense. When we have after the war in Iraq ended, our history book were all about Saddam. So this history book had been rewritten, and we were hoping for it to change. But sadly, they took Saddam off, kept everything the same. They're against Israel, they're against the Jewish people. They never mentioned over 150,000 Iraqi Jews who used to live in Iraq. And this is their homeland. They never mentioned them. So it's a problem. So how to deal with this is by re-educating the young generation. Stop the lies on social media and stop Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera must be stopped. Honestly, Al Jazeera is a really major problem we have. And you know, Tom, that I make videos and you see all my videos trying to show the misinformation being spread by Al Jazeera, who call Hamas resistance. Hamas is no resistance. There is no resistance burning babies and put them in an oven or killing their parents in front of them. It doesn't make any sense. They call the all of these innocent Jews who got captured by Hamas during October 7th as military. What type of military? A woman with her babies being taken to Gaza? It doesn't make any sense. When you mention this truth and come to talk about it online, they try to silence it. It's just sad, but it's truth. So we need to face these lies. That's number one, what we need to do. Go ahead.
First of all, I would like to encourage our crowd over here and on YouTube to ask questions if you want to ask it yourself. Ashley, go ahead. Be my guest. And if someone wants to write a question in the chat, I'll read it. If someone prefers not to ask himself, definitely go ahead.
Tom, can I ask him a question?
Yes, sure.
Okay, Haider, nice to meet you. Me up in the so my name is Avner, and my family came from Mosul. And guess what? Ahlan wa sahlan, masal al khair. And I'm building a small museum about Mosul now, and we love the stories. And we cook every Saturday the food. And we got a lot of pictures and good memories from Mosul. And I want you to know that there is a lot of Iraqi Jews that really missed Iraq and want to come and visit. And again, you said that we don't share a border. And I really hope that one day I will come and visit. And anyway, I don't have a question for you, but I just want to tell you that we are so proud of people like you.
Thank you so much. And that's exactly the reason what I do is for the Jewish people and the Iraqi Jews to come back to their home, to see their homeland one more time. There is no need for all of this hatred that has no source, And I have mentioned also previously that after World War II, and during it actually, these dictatorships, especially military dictatorships, took over Arab countries. And they want to keep power. So that's why they brainwash people with lies to let people think totally different way. Instead of talking about economy and salaries and their way of living, they want them to concentrate on something else, you know, an outsider cause, reason, to let people brainwash with something else. The Iraqi Jewish community, which is over at the time over 150,000, they were in the government, they were in the economy, they were from the economic capital of Iraq, Basra, to the capital Baghdad. They were one of the top supporting the country and the economy. And you can see that Iraq in early 1940s were one of the best economies in the region. When the Jewish community expelled from Iraq, look what happened to it. It's like the Jewish people have this kind of lack giving the country. When they left, the country fall apart. It's just, I mean, honestly, that when the Jewish people, they go ahead to somewhere, they always bring with them luck and they improve what they do. They are hardworking people. They are doing everything and they're peaceful and kind people. So it doesn't make any sense all what happened, especially with the Farhud, which I'm sure you know of, something that outside reasons, causes, they bring it to Iraq and they make it generalized. I'm talking about here the government, sadly, at the time, and military, of course. This is not happening only in Iraq. This is all over the Middle East and North Africa. The military dictatorships created this cause, which is by then backed by the Nazi Germany. And afterward, Nazi Germany fall, Soviet Union comes in. Soviet Union fall, Iran comes in. So always we have a reason for people to continue being brainwashed. And while we are, and I'm happy, and just like you and everybody in the Middle East, happy that Iran's militia are being destroyed in Syria, right? In December last year, sadly, somebody else comes in. And we saw right now.
I will be happy. Tom, first of all, Tom, thank you for this great Zoom. And one day, if you come to Israel, I will be happy to take you to the Iraqi market and to meet some old people that grew up in Iraq. It will be wonderful.
That will be my honor. Tom can give you my information contact.
Of course, I love that. Ashley, you wanted to ask something? Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Hi. So I'm sorry, I'm not going to open my camera. I'm already in my pajamas. But I did want to say, first of all, my husband is also of Iraqi descent, and his father's uncle was murdered during the Farhud. So it's a close story to our family. So I will just say I'm a social media influencer here in Israel with many followers, and I love to create content with unique voices. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Sharaka, if you've heard of Sharaka, but you've heard of them. So I'm active with them as well. So I like to do a lot of interfaith content. If there's something, if you feel comfortable making content, then I would love to be in touch with you after. But my question for you is, we see a lot, especially in recent months. I mean, this has always been a kind of conspiracy theory circulating, but in recent months, ever more so amongst the American right, the conservatives, the far right, about how basically George Bush was conned by the Israeli government to go into Iraq for the war in Iraq. And I was curious to know if you've heard of that conspiracy, and if that conspiracy theory is something that is popular amongst the Iraqi people, that they believe that America's war in Iraq was influenced by Israel, which obviously is not true.
Well, thank you, Ashley, and I will be honored to work alongside you. Tom can give you my contacts. Well, while directly I did not hear that about about Bush, but I actually, as Iraqi, I did hear that Israel wanted America to come to Iraq in 2003 to take Saddam down. But let's say, before we say it's truth or false, what threatens Israel of Iraq 2003 version, pre-war? Because if you tell me that the nuclear program has been destroyed in 1981, and Iraq as a powerful country militarily has been basically destroyed in 1991 after the Kuwait war, the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait. So in 2003, Iraq basically doesn't have military. I mean, their military has been mostly destroyed before that war. So what threatens Israel from this? In fact, it threatens Israel more if they took Saddam down, that could somebody else took over, which actually happened, Iran's backed militia, right? So they are much more powerful than just Saddam in. Saddam's a dictator, destroyed the country for sure. But at the time, he have very weak military, but he's still anti-Iran. So while he's not pro-Israel, for sure, but still he's stopping Iran from passing the Iraq into, Syria and then to Israel. So I think that yes, there's many people believing the fact that Israel pushed America to enter Iraq, despite it has no facts and all lies. And in fact, Israel will be against, not with such invasion, because this could bring another government who will be more willing to attack Israel rather than Saddam. Saddam used Israel as a card, but another one could be more worse. So yeah, I believe that there's no facts for that, but there's many people do believe in it. Yes.
Okay, of course you can ask more questions if you like. I would like to ask you, meanwhile, if you were the Prime Minister of Israel, how would you navigate Israel through this problematic water of the Middle East?
To be honest, Israel is in a situation where it doesn't matter how good you are, you're going to be attacked. You let, I mean, how many countries I'm been following, and I'm here, I will say the truth. Okay, I will say the truth. It could hurt, it could be good, but I'm going to be the truth. Israel have let many humanitarian aid enter Gaza by air, by land, and by sea. But Israel got attacked all the time for not letting the aid enter. For example, this thing. So what Israel should do, I mean, let the aid in, the aid enters, and they attack Israel for not letting the aid. So it doesn't make any sense here. So other countries, when, for example, Egypt, Israel told Egypt, you can get the aid in. Egypt doesn't want to. The trucks, the UN trucks, all in Egypt, countless trucks there on the borders. Egypt doesn't want to let them in. I mean, you're talking about your brothers in Gaza, your brothers and your Muslims and Palestinians. They are hungry, right? So let the trucks in. Israel open the borders, just let them in. It doesn't make any sense. So my idea here is that it doesn't matter what Israel do, it will always get attacked. So in order to solve this issue, Israel doing its best since the 1940s with peace initiatives with the Palestinians, but sadly this is not working out. And it's not about Israel, it's about the Palestinians who control them. Because who control them doesn't want peace. Peace will not benefit them. And this is something I have researched and I totally understand, because the dictatorship there doesn't want it, either Hamas or the Palestinian Authority. So in order to solve all these problems for Israel as a country, if I were the Prime Minister, I will push to skip Palestine issue, make peace with the rest of the world, Arab world. When you will make peace, these Arab countries will stop funding the terrorism in Gaza. And for example, Hamas. So the more countries joins, the less funding will flow to Hamas. And the more countries join, the more other countries will be willing to go forward. Because after all, let's say there's countries scared of going for peace. But when UAE and Bahrain join, more will join, like Morocco, for example, Sudan afterwards, and right now Saudi Arabia soon, hopefully. So it's just let the other country join in. When Israel and other countries join peace, the conflict of Israel-Palestine will basically cease to exist. Hamas will be, the funding stopped to it. When the funding stops, Hamas disappears, the people will be willing to cooperate with other Arab countries to join peace with Israel, then we have peace. When you try your best to reach peace with somebody, which I heard it, a lot of my Jewish friends call it, that want to kill me, it's difficult. So, I mean, Hamas says, okay, we want ceasefire right now. Okay, Israel can go ahead and make ceasefire. But that doesn't change the fact, tomorrow, few $1 billion comes in, they call it humanitarian aid from Gaza, but actually end up with Hamas pockets. Hamas, go ahead, rebuild their tunnels, go attack Israel again. And they are the one who broke the ceasefire. The Israel go back to defend themselves. Then the news comes in saying how many civilians Israel have killed. So that in order for this problem to end, Israel and other Arab countries should go ahead for Abraham Accords 2.0, 3.0. Then Hamas will be cornered to the level they will have to accept peace. And here I'm not mentioning Hamas. Hamas will never accept it, but the Palestinian people, since Hamas will no longer exist.
So I have a difficult question for you. You know that in Israel there's also another conspiracy theory, or maybe it's not a conspiracy theory. You will tell me what you think. That says that basically every peace agreement or normalization agreement or relations with a Muslim, or maybe I should say with an Islamic country, is I would say is conditional because of the tradition of Taqiyya. And you're probably aware of this tradition, and as someone who comes from a Shia background but today consider himself a secular Muslim or an ex-Muslim, then you have a very interesting take on it. So the question over here is whether Israel can trust peace accords with Muslim nations such as, for example, Egypt or Jordan, or maybe it's different with Shia nations because of the aspect of Taqiyya that basically says that Muslims to some extent are allowed to lie in matters of peace or war to deceive the enemy.
Well, Tom, let's say I will mention an example. Europe is not a Muslim continent. Europe are a Christian. And do you feel safe right now in Europe? As a Jew? Can you wear the Star of David in the street there? Right now, Europe itself, who used to be pro-Israel, and end up right now full anti-Israel. So I would say that it's not about only the background. As a Muslim background country, majority, they could join peace today and tomorrow they will, let's say, be against Israel. If Christian countries themselves changed on Israel. So I would say there's nothing called I will be sure of, because of the Christian themselves changed right now, as you mentioned. So I think that what we can do is when a country join peace with Israel, that doesn't mean all the people still accept the peace. Still, a lot of people are still brainwashed. So how to deal with that is we raise a new generation, what I like to call it hate-free. So the history books that I learned when I grow up to hate Israel and the Jewish people, it will no longer exist when my kid will grow up and study in the school, since this will not exist. So my kid will grow up then if there is some kind of a media they read here or there against Israel, but it will not be as much as what I was faced when I was young. So slowly, generation by generation, it will slowly disappear. So that's what we can do. It doesn't really matter as the religion, because as I say, the Christian countries in Europe anti-Israel right now. So it's all it takes is to re-educate the masses. So the Iraqi people, the Egyptians, well, you mentioned the Egyptians because right now Egyptians is a bit more of anti-Israel. That's correct. But I just want to mention, I actually studied high school in Egypt and university. When I was in high school, I remember by then Hosni Mubarak, the president, the dictator, the history books by then, they are anti-Israel. So I do believe what you mentioned, but I would add to the point that Egypt was forced to sign peace treaty with Israel. So it's not actually came out of nothing. It's just a war and we forced to sign it. Think of it as a ceasefire. But UAE is different than Egypt. UAE signed peace. They are not forced. They decided to go ahead with peace. Israel said, welcome. So right now you can see, and I see a lot of videos about how the Jewish people going to Israel, to UAE, and they are living perfectly normal life. But I didn't see that in Egypt, where Israel signed peace with them in the 1973 something. So it's not the same. The Israelis, when they go to Egypt, they go specific locations and try their best to stay secluded, stay away from the general public, and they don't mention we are Israelis. They don't want to mention that. But in the UAE, it's different. So what we want is peace like the peace with UAE, not like the peace with Egypt. This kind of peace, that actual peace. I'm not forced to. I wanted this peace. And still, we are going to raise a generation hate-free. We are going to rewrite these history books to write the truth. I'm not saying fake it. I am saying write the truth. For example, in Iraq, I want them to rewrite the books to mention the Iraqi Jews. Those that they have been deleted from Iraq's history. I want them to say the truth for Iraq. The Jewish people were never against Iraq. The Jewish people were of the loyalists to their country until they got expelled. So it's all about to mention the truth. Mention the truth, raise a generation hate-free, delete all of these lies that we got Arabs got brainwashed, studying it and reading it and checking it. So when that ends, trust me that in a few generations, Europe 2.0 will be in Middle East. And here the good Europe, as I always say, the good one, not the current one. We can reach that.
So a lot of the hatred that was created in Europe in the last 2 years, you said, or most of it, is generated by the pictures and the videos that are coming from Gaza. And I wanted to ask you about Mosul, because I think that this is a very interesting topic, because in the city of Mosul, there was a very significant battle that can be, basically we can create some sort of, we can learn from one about the other, right? So how would you compare the battle on Mosul and the battle on Gaza, both in terms of the outcomes to the civilian population and the kind of help or humanitarian aid that they received, and also in terms of the global public reaction?
Okay, so first of all, I would like to say that let's begin with the humanitarian aid, which is very critical point, since I was talking about it a few weeks ago.
But maybe before we dive into the humanitarian, let's remind the people what was the Battle of Mosul and why does it
So Mosul is
yes.
So Mosul is in the north of Iraq. It's somehow close to the border to Syria. Mosul was the most population filled city that got captured by ISIS, and actually it became the HQ headquarters of ISIS when they used it to expand to other regions of Iraq. But mainly they stayed in it. Think of it as Gaza. So this city, when the Iraqi military and the US-backed coalition forces had been created, they managed to capture back all the areas and stayed this city. They put it to the loss because the city is majorly civilian population in it. The first thing I will want to mention before the battle is began, there is zero humanitarian aid entered the city before before the war. It entered after the war is ended. ISIS has been dismantled and destroyed. There was no humanitarian aid whatsoever entered the city, compared to Gaza, which since the beginning of the conflict, aid comes in. So there is no balance here in the humanitarian aid. Secondly, the Iraqi military and the US forces and the coalition forces, they didn't took a phone call to call the Iraqi civilians in the city and telling them, hey, move away, we're going to attack the ISIS here near you. They didn't do that. While IDF, all the time, calling the people, telling them to move away. I mean, honestly, I have never heard that before. When I was living in Iraq in 2003, when the war happened between Saddam and the US, we never got a phone call from the Americans telling them, hey, we're going to shoot near your house. That never happened, honestly. So, because if it happened, that would be very easy. Hey, I'm going to shoot near your house so I can move away. I will be safe. I mean, honestly, when somebody calls you to tell you to move out, you should thank them, even if they're going to attack your own house, because it means they are saving your life. Honestly, there is nothing more rich or expensive than a human life. So this is actually the difference between Israel and the world, because Israel do care about human life. And so, with that being said, there's no Iraq has got a phone call. The war began, the bombing began, the city. I'm not saying that this weren't the right thing to do, because you are fighting against a barbaric terrorist organization. Was a must, and they weren't going to lay down their weapons. It has to be through military means. So the US-backed forces and the Iraqi military, they destroyed the city to dismantle Hamas. Sorry, ISIS, because I keep mentioning Hamas, because Hamas and ISIS is the same. It's the same.
It's a very
Hamas
similar
is,
situation.
yeah, honestly, because Hamas is, the tactics Hamas did in Gaza is identical to ISIS, if not worse. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this Zoom, is the reason of Hamas doing it is because it worked for ISIS. It worked. The method of torture and death and make it live on videos and recording it and uploading it is scaring people. The Mosul Israeli in the north of Iraq and people in the south of Iraq were scared of ISIS because of these videos. It worked. This kind of method worked. So Hamas is doing exactly the same thing to scare the Jewish people, to scare them, to tell them, oh, we can do more, because the Hamas is not scared because the media supporting them. Al Jazeera supporting them. So with that being said, there were no comparing between Mosul and Gaza. Mosul has been fully destroyed, and the civilians in Mosul didn't get any humanitarian aid during the war. Meanwhile, Gaza, each time the IDF want to target a specific location, they call the civilians, they send leaf drops, the messages, even from the planes. They tell everyone to move before they even targeting the place, which for me, from a military perspective, when I researched it, it doesn't make any sense. Because if Israel want to attack a Hamas cell in a specific location, when they call the civilians near that place, tell them to move, Hamas will know. But still, Israel doing it for the sake of civilians. I mean, honestly, this is from perspective of military and intelligence. It's really not good, but Israel still care about civilians. So it doesn't make any sense for the world not to give credit to the IDF and Israel for that. So yeah, Mosul and Gaza, while they have the same side, both controlled by terrorist organizations, but Mosul in Iraq didn't get aid during the war. They got aid, but after the war. And the city has been fully destroyed, and the media didn't attack Iraq military or the US or the coalition forces after the city has been liberated. Meanwhile, for Gaza, it's totally different story. It gets aid since the beginning of the war. And all the time, the civilians get phone call from the IDF to tell them to move away when the IDF want to target Hamas terrorists. Hamas used civilian compounds, used UN buildings, used hospitals to hide underneath it. And when the IDF shared these videos, all the media tried to say it's fake. And when Hamas also wearing civilian clothes, nobody told Hamas why you are doing this. In fact, we already saw that most of Hamas working for Al Jazeera at the same time. So they are murdering Jews. Meanwhile, recording it and giving it to Al Jazeera, and they are in the same time journalists, doctors. It doesn't make any sense, but that's who they are. And the media fully backing them, unlike in Iraq. So there's no balance here. There's no balance when you compare both situations. And all the time I mentioned one very important point. Why, when ISIS entered Iraq, the world jumped to create these coalition forces to liberate Iraq and Mosul from these barbarians, ISIS. But when it came to Israel, it's a different story. Why? Why is different? Please go ahead.
It's a good question, but let's ask another good question. So we're in a very exciting times, actually, specifically for you and I. We're registering and founding the Abrahamic movement together with our friend Justine Zweling, that is also with us on the Zoom, and many other friends, both from Israel and the countries of the Middle East. Do you think that the narrative of our grandfather Abraham can win over the narrative of Al Jazeera?
We can win, yes. It's until today, the problem is with the Western countries, the pressure and control of Qatar is very strong and powerful, and this is what's leading into the problem, because right now what I see is Israel is facing right now two enemies: Iran from one side and its militias, and the new power rising in the Middle East, Turkey, and Qatar. And this is very problematic for not only actually Israel and the Jewish people, but for Arabs as well. Because I want to remind everyone, maybe you guys don't know, that Al Jazeera actually was backing Al-Qaeda when they appeared in Iraq around 2005, 2006. And during the civil war in Iraq at the time, where Al-Qaeda mainly murdering civilians everywhere, Al Jazeera at the time, they're calling them resistance. And Hamas themselves, they were participating in killing Iraqis in 2007. And there is a lot of records about that. So the problem is right now what we have. If we want to win this conflict of lies and misinformation versus our story of truth and peace, we have to stop the Qatar and Turkey. It's not necessarily by military means, but their media have to stop. Their brainwashing have to stop. Because currently, if one country, if let's say, for example, if Iraq decided to join peace, innocently, Qatar will target it with their media. And this is a problem. And well, last year, I came to the United States. I was in the Qatar Airways, and not by choice. And during my plane, the map in front of me going to the United States. So I was in the Middle East, fly over nearby from Egypt, near Israel. Israel didn't exist in the map. At the time, I made a post about it. Israel didn't exist. It's only the Gaza and Palestine. Israel completely has been deleted by Qatar Airways. So Qatar have these ideas, and they want to expand it to brainwash people. If we want to win this, we have to stop these lies. It must stop, because what they are saying is not. Some must say that it's freedom. You can say whatever you want. Yes, you can, but you cannot say lies and misinformation. You cannot brainwash millions of people on murdering others, because that's exactly what Al Jazeera is doing, brainwashing people with lies to hate Jews, to hate Israel's right to exist in the Middle East, and to charge them also against any Arab country join peace with Israel. This is really a major problem. So we can win against this when this stops.
So there are many rumors, especially in the last hours, by the way, about a coming agreement or a proclamation about an agreement between Israel and Saudi Arabia. How do you think it will change the paradigm or the power balance in the Middle East? And before you answer, I'll just say that we are about to wrap up. So if people on this call have more questions, so this will be a very good time to ask them.
So Saudi Arabia is the heart of the Muslim world, regardless of they are Muslim Sunni. They are the heart of Muslim world. So when they join, it will be a major success for all of us: Israel, the Jews, the Arabs, the Muslims, Middle East, and anybody who care about peace. This is going to be a success for us, because this is a major country, the heart of the Muslim world. To join peace, this means it's no conflict between Muslims and Jews. It's not a conflict between those. It's a conflict between Israel and a terrorist organization, Hamas, that for Saudi Arabia doesn't recognize Hamas. Saudi Arabia wants peace. So when Saudi Arabia join peace, many will follow. This is going to be a major failure for Iran, to be honest. This is what Iran is going to be very, very, very weak after this, if this happened. Because Saudi Arabia is the heart of the Muslim world. So Saudi Arabia is a very, very strong heart. And if it joined this peace, then many will follow, which I do believe that many, many will follow after Saudi Arabia.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we will end, I would like to ask you if you want to deliver a message to the people of Israel.
Well, before that, I would like to mention something regarding Syria.
Sure.
Since we care about civilians, right? We care about civilians everywhere. Why nobody mentioning what's happened to the Alawite minority in the coast of Syria by the current government in Damascus? How about the Druze near the borders with Israel? We all saw the videos. And it's the funny thing is during the March this year, and when the massacre happened against Alawites in the coast, many women were raped. and many were killed. And this happened, the videos, everyone on social media at the time spread. The so-called government said, we created this team, they will investigate and everything. And I think less than a week ago, their results came in. They said all these incidents were fake. And then nobody got raped. So, I mean, honestly, you cannot expect them to say anything. It's just lies, and the Qatar is covering for them. And sadly, when it happened in another country, for example, between Israel and Hamas, Al Jazeera jumps in with their lies and misinformation. But with Syria, Al Jazeera is covering. But I'm not expecting Al Jazeera to say the truth about Syria. No, but I'm expecting the world to mention it. Where is the sanctions against? In fact, I would not say where's the sanctions. I would say, why did you lift the sanctions? It was already in place. I mean, when you bring a previous one who used to be Al-Qaeda and the US wanted him dead or alive in a wanted list, become so-called president, and the minorities getting killed and nobody talking about it. This is a shame on humanity. And Israel comes in to support them, to protect the minority. I mean, the world should thank Israel. But nobody wants to talk about it. And everybody's asking Israel to, withdraw from Syria. Yeah, withdraw from Syria. So this so-called government can murder the remaining of these people. It's unbelievable. So the first thing I actually want to say, thank you, Israel, for defending these minorities, the Druze. Because without you, they will be all murdered, like what happened in the coast of Syria. So the Israel is the savior of Middle East, because everybody else doesn't want to do anything. They just want to, blind their eyes. They don't want to see what's happening. Yes, I want a revolution in Syria happened, the Assad fall. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you replace them with somebody worse. So thank you, Israel, for doing that. So my message to the people of Israel too, as Iraqi and Arab, I was, as I mentioned, raised to hate the Jewish people and Israel with these brainwashing history books. But I am very honored to be enlightened with the truth. And I'm very proud to be on the right path in supporting Israel and the Jewish people, my Jewish cousins. And I am really proud to be a part of the Jewish organizations and have you, Tom, as an honor. I'm honored to have you as a friend. And I think that the Jewish people deserve peace. My country, Iraq, I hope one day to see it, to join peace, to join Abraham Accords with Israel for the benefit of Israel and Iraq and all of the Middle East. But not only the peace that I want the end of hatred against Jews, not only in the Middle East. I want it to end also in Europe and in America, because I saw it on the street. I am not a Jewish person, I'm wearing the Star of David in support for the Jewish people, because I saw how many Jews got attacked for wearing the Star of David. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that you are free, even in a free country like the United States. So I hope that one day that all of us, Arabs and Jews, join hand in hand and have this peace and coexistence in all over the Middle East. But also I hope for the end of the rise of anti-Semitism and Jew hatred. And I will do my best and from my part to help him with that regard.
Amen. Thank you for your kind words and for your time and for everything that you're doing. And I'm also excited about our friendship and the remarkable way that we are threading on the way for a new Abrahamic vision to the Middle East and creating a new language or intellectual dialogue under the framework of the Abrahamic movement. This will be an exciting times, I'm sure of it. Thank you again, and I hope to see you next time after more good news will come, and soon enough. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good evening,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Shukran.